Hello and welcome to the HamiltonGeek D&D product review. This is Artimage bringing you the details on the Eberron Player's Guide. Eberron being the newest campaign setting in the Dungeons & Dragons realms, released in 2004 and created by Keith Baker for the Wizards of the Coast Fantasy Setting Search Contest. The world of Eberron is one of great creativity. The writers and developers clearly went to a great length of trouble to give everything in D&D a place in the world. Now to most players and DMs, this sounds like the easiest task of all. Certain creatures have certain roles, and that's the way they will always be. But in Eberron, anything can happen. A goblin merchant, a good drow who is not Dristoorden, an evil metallic dragon, even clerics need not align their spells with their deity. The world of Eberron is definitely a different sort of place. On to the book itself. It serves the same basic purpose as the Forgotten Realms Player's Guide, in that it provides players and their DMs with necessary information to develop PCs in this world. It gives information such as the general geographical placement and roles of the currently included races, including more obscure additions like Goliaths, Devas, and Genasi. It should be noted, however, that unlike the Forgotten Realms, the Eberron setting has not experienced a progression, merely a conversion. And it's definitely a very well done conversion and update. Though a personal complaint of mine is the change they made to the Changeling race. Changelings were a race introduced with the original Eberron campaign setting in D&D 3.5. While the Changelings in 3.5 were the results of evolution from human doppelganger unions, the Changelings now are merely doppelgangers as characters. While this has no real bearing on gameplay, it's a big flavor change to me. It's kind of like giving me new Coke after all those years of Coca-Cola, for those of you old enough to remember that. The Artificer class has received an excellent transition over to 4E, whereas it was seen that the Artificer was more a crafter of magical items back in its inception. It's now easier to think of it as a tinkerer, getting in touch with and figuring out the workings. An Artificer can still create new magic items to a lesser extent, assisted by the lack of a craft skill in this new version of D&D. Again, with this setting being a simple translation into 4E instead of a progression, the lands and regions still hold the same. The City of Towers still plays out its role as the hub of the world. The deistic sovereign host and fanatical Silver Flame still hold as the two primary religions of the continent of Corvair, which is still where all the real action and political intrigue take place, as well as having the greatest amount of material provided. Though a good number of the character options have been changed. The inspiration for the Spellscar in Forgotten Realms, the Eberron Dragon Marks, have had a fair bit of impact on the way the game is played, granting small magical abilities to those who may not otherwise have them. Now, however, they are very mechanically different. There are no longer stages of dragon marks in the game. You either have one or you don't. No varying power. And I can fully understand the reason to this. It was said in the podcast by James Wyatt, who worked on the system.
When we did the Spellscar system in the Forgotten Realms Player's Guide, there was an assumption even within the department, but also outside among our fans, that that's pretty much what dragon marks would look like, because it was the same kind of thing. In 3rd edition, you take a dragon mark, you get a spell-like ability that you can use some number of times per day, and that's more or less how Spellscars work. They're a multi-class type feat that give you a power you can use. We decided not to take that approach with dragon marks, and it's because Andy Collins asked a really important question, which was, Are dragon marks in Eberron doing what we want them to do? And the answer, once we thought about that, is no, not really. What we want is for the halfling with the Mark of Healer to be the best damn healer in the world. What we got was the halfling with the Mark of Healing to be a fighter who happens to be able to cast Cure Light Wounds once per day. Mm-hmm. He's not the best healer in the world. He's a dabbler. So the system that we put together is a feat-based system where basically it makes you better at what you can already do. So if you're playing a halfling with the Mark of Healing, you ought to be a leader. You should be a cleric or a warlord or a shaman. And your Mark of Healing is going to make your healing abilities better. So it is in fact true that the halflings of House Tarasco are the best healers in the world, rather than being dabblers in healing. So I take that as a mission, that I'm driving the design team constantly to think beyond what is the clear and obvious solution to what is really the best solution for the game. Sometimes the clear and obvious solution is the best one, but not always. And this was a case where it took us a number of goings round to land at the right spot, but I'm really happy with where it ended up.
The idea is actually really sound, but we'll see how it all plays out. Though there is hinting at Siberia's dragon marks still, I am very curious to see how these compare. The final PC edition to Eberron actually goes and takes a page from the Forgotten Realms, and that's to provide character backgrounds that grant bonuses. These can be based on your character's geographical origin or your character's story background. Though it should be noted these background bonuses are not RPGA legal, for those of you heavy into that aspect. There are a few things that appear to be missing from this guide. I am rather disappointed in the absence of living weapons and other symbionts. I can understand the not including of these items, as I do not believe that I know of anyone who ever willingly took on a symbiont. But it certainly was a nice dash of spice. Perhaps since they were the preferred weapons of Daleker, a monstrous race with the intent of being pure evil at all times, they will be included along with the monster of Daleker in the campaign guide, hopefully. In closing, I'm excited to get a chance to play in this campaign setting with these new rules, and highly recommend this accessory to everyone out there who plays D&D.